Eh bien, bonsoir à tous, bonsoir à toutes et bienvenue pour cette session très spéciale. Cette session est une explication de ce qu'est l'initiation de Kalachakra. En effet, cette initiation de Kalachakra va avoir lieu les 29 et 30 avril dans une salle parisienne. C'est un événement très rare qui est organisé par le centre Kalachakra. Et ce soir, nous avons une grande chance, c'est que nous avons l'opportunité de recevoir des informations sur ce qu'est cette initiation. Et nous allons recevoir cette information de la part d'un grand pratiquant du Tantra de Kalachakra qui est Andy Wistreich. Je voudrais juste donner quelques informations à propos de l'organisation de cette initiation. Si vous vous êtes déjà inscrit, eh bien, vous recevez environ toutes les 2 semaines une newsletter complète qui comprend l'ensemble des informations à connaître pour assister de manière opportune, pour assister de manière la plus sereine, la plus efficace possible à cette initiation. Je vous invite à lire l'intégralité de cette newsletter puisqu'elle contient des informations vraiment très importantes, l'horaire d'arrivée, le lieu bien sûr où a lieu cette initiation, des informations également à propos de l'hébergement ou aussi comment vous procurez votre billet d'entrée. Si vous avez des informations, n'hésitez pas à me contacter en français ou en anglais par email. Je viens d'indiquer sur le chat mon adresse email. Je suis Franck, FRANCK, centre-kalachakra.net. Et donc, ce soir, nous accueillons un grand connaisseur du Tantra de Kalachakra, un grand pratiquant de ce Tantra, Andy Wistreich. Bonsoir, bienvenue Andy.
Okay, so thank you very much to the Tantra Kalachakra for inviting me to give this talk. I will talk. I'll also lead one or two meditations.
Est-ce que tous les Anglais...
And also there will be a chance for you to ask questions. I think probably because of language issues, we won't organize breakout groups in this session. But I'll give enough time for you to ask questions or share your thoughts actually also later on in the session. So you're all interested in taking the Kalachakra initiation with Cancer Jhado Rinpoche, who is coming very soon to Paris. And this is a wonderful opportunity, as was mentioned, because he is a very great Lama. He was the abbot of Namgyal Monastery, which is the personal monastery of His Holiness, the Dalai Lama. And then after that, he was abbot of Gyuto Monastery, which is one of the main tantric colleges in the Gelug tradition. And he travels all over the world. Right now, he's touring Europe. A couple of years ago, he gave a very large Kalachakra initiation in Mongolia on behalf of His Holiness Dalai Lama. And Kalachakra is one of his specialities. And I'm very grateful personally to have received full instructions in the Kalachakra Tantra and the practice of Kalachakra from Jhado Rinpoche. And also I received the Kalachakra initiation from him in Paris at your center in 2012. So I'm going to share some thoughts about Kalachakra, what it means, and then what it means to take the initiation, why it's important. It's important to each of us personally, but also it's very important for the world. So I will talk about both these issues, the personal, spiritual opportunity to develop spiritually, but also the benefits for the world today that we live in. Probably the first part of the session will be about the meaning of Kalachakra, and in particular, what are the benefits and purposes of taking this initiation? Because if you don't really know the purpose or the benefit, then your motivation is a little bit shallow. It may be that you like the sound of it, or you think it's exotic or something like that. And I'll be honest, when I first took the initiation in 1981, I didn't know very much about it at all. Actually, to be honest, I didn't know anything about it. I just thought it sounded interesting. And I went with my wife to America to take the initiation from His Holiness Dalai Lama in 1981, which was the first time that His Holiness gave the initiation outside of the Indian subcontinent. And since then, I've been interested in Kalachakra, and I've studied what texts there are in English, and there are now quite a lot, but at the beginning there were hardly any. But also I've had the good fortune to practice the Kalachakra, following instructions from my teachers, and also more recently to lead quite a number of retreats. And I did some solitary retreats also. So I feel confident to recommend the Kalachakra, but I need to say why. I don't want you to just take my word for it. I want you to really think, why? Why do I want to do the Kalachakra initiation? So I thought we'd begin by thinking about the name Kalachakra. What does it mean? So the usual translation of Kalachakra is wheel of time. Kala means time, and chakra means wheel. But Alexander Berzin, who's a great Kalachakra scholar and translator, he introduced another translation which is also very good, and that is cycles of time. In other words, chakra can mean wheel, but it can also mean cycles, which obviously a wheel and a cycle is connected. It may be a different way of looking at the same thing, but it gives us another idea. But let's begin with thinking about a wheel. So a wheel is something circular, and in the middle, we can say there is a still point. Maybe it's hypothetical to say that there is a still point, but logically, there must be a still point, because the closer you get to the center, the more slowly the wheel turns. On the outside, it turns quite quickly, and then as you go towards the center, it becomes slower. And so hypothetically anyway, there's a point in the center where it stops. And this is an interesting concept. It's also the concept of a circle and the center of the circle. And this is sometimes used by the Buddha, this image, in order that we can understand the meaning of emptiness. And this is because the center depends on the circumference, and the circumference depends on the center. This means that without a circumference, there is no center. And without a center, there is no circumference. I think this is a concept which you can probably understand when you think about a circle with a center. And now that if we translate that to a wheel, where the circle is turning around, then in the very center, at the infinitesimally small center, there is stillness. And that is a very useful idea in order to understand the meaning of Kalachakra, actually, and the purpose of the practice. Because we can say that one of the purposes of the practice is to bring us to the stillness, to bring us to that which does not move. That which does not move is beyond time and space. The wheel turning is definitely within time and space. As it turns, time passes. As it turns, it moves in space. But at the still center, if you can understand what the stillness is like, there is no time or space. And this relationship between the center and the turning wheel is somehow at the heart of the Kalachakra. So everything I've said so far is a little bit theoretical, isn't it? It's kind of a little bit intellectual. So what we're going to do now is we're going to do a meditation to try to bring what I've been saying into experience. So would you like to sit in a meditation posture? Please bring your mind with your body on your seat in this present moment. And be aware of your spinal column, right from the base up to your skull. Try to make it straight. And imagine a line just in front of your spine. A straight line from the top of your head right to the bottom of your spine. And imagine that line continuing down through your seat, through the floor of your room, through the foundations of your building, down into the earth. And follow that line as far as you can go until you reach the very center of the earth, because that's where that line leads to. And no matter where we are on the earth, we're all meeting at that point. We're meeting in the stillness of the center of the earth, which is turning all the time. And now come back up the line until you reach your heart center. This is on the imaginary line. It's in the center of your chest, the same level as your heart. Don't make it too tight. Just be relaxed at your heart center. Feel very gentle with yourself. And from there, you can feel in all directions what we can call the heart space. And in the heart space, there are many energies moving. These energies are connected with your emotions. Give them plenty of space. You can make the heart space bigger if you wish, in order to give them enough room to move. You can even make the heart space bigger than your body. Because this is a space of the mind. But stay more or less at the heart center and experience your breath coming in through your nostrils, down your windpipe, into your lungs, where your rib cage opens and closes as you breathe. And follow each breath coming from the space of your room, breathing in into your heart space, your lungs, and then breathing out. So each breath begins outside your body, in the room, and it ends inside your heart space, in your lungs, or maybe your diaphragm below. You absorb some oxygen and you release what you don't need back into the room. At the end of each inhalation and exhalation, there is a turning point. At the end of the in-breath, there's a turning point before you breathe out. At the end of the out-breath, there's a turning point before you breathe in. What happens at those two turning points? For one thing, the breath disperses, either into the body or into the room. Also, the breath becomes more subtle as it disperses. And your mind is following the breath, and the mind also becomes more subtle at these 2 points. And at each turning point, we have to say that there is a still point. There's a still point just as the direction of the breath changes. Each breath is a cycle. Each breath lasts a certain time. The still point doesn't last any time. We could say that at that point we go beyond time. Now become aware of your body in your room at this time. If you're in Europe, then the time is early evening. What does early evening feel like in the cycle of day and night? We finished the main work of the day. We're relaxing a little maybe. Later we'll go to sleep. Every day there is a cycle. We can say we travel through this cycle. But we could say this cycle travels around us. Let's think, what is the time of the year? If we're in Europe, or Northern Hemisphere, let's say, it's spring. What is happening in spring? Just feel it. I don't need to describe it. You can feel it. We're just more than halfway between the winter solstice and the summer solstice. These are turning points of the year. The days are getting longer until the summer solstice in June, and then they will get shorter. Our whole life, we are going round with the seasons. Or perhaps the seasons are going around us. Finally, let's think about the phases of the moon. This is a special day today. It's full moon. Some people feel full moon, other people don't. Full moon is the climax of the waxing moon, after which it begins to wane and get smaller. The Kalachakra talks about this because there are 15 days in the waxing moon, which it calls the bright fortnight, and 15 days in the waning moon, which it calls the dark fortnight. But the Kalachakra says that there are 16 parts to the full moon. And the 16th part is the still turning point, as it changes from waxing to waning. And that is happening sometime today or tonight. Now just finally bring your mind back inside your body to your heart center. Come into your heart center and experience the stillness. It's said in Kalachakra that at this point there is the original moment of conception, when the cells of the mother and father came together with the consciousness from the previous life, and formed a drop, which was the beginning of our life. And that drop remains in our heart center for our whole life. In the Kalachakra, this point is called the Vajra mind. It means a mind of indivisible bliss and emptiness. And when we die, all the energies will contract again to this point, where we will remain for a while and then depart for the next life. So our conception and our death are both still points, in a sense, the beginning and end of the cycle of our life. Just rest there a little while in the stillness and just feel it. This is the mind of your conception, the mind of your death. the mind that doesn't know language, or any gross materiality, is the subtlest essence of your mind. Pure, peaceful, radiant, bliss. It's the center of the wheel of our life. So we're going to just think a little bit about the universe now. The origin of the universe, according to modern science, is sometimes called the Big Bang. It's understood that the universe emerges from a singularity. A singularity is said to have zero volume and infinite mass, which is beyond the ordinary laws of physics. And sometimes there's talk about a flaring forth of the universe from this singularity. Flaring forth means it's like fire coming into, like a little explosion or something like that. And then the universe starts to expand, and there are different theories about what happens, actually. It's not certain, according to modern science, but there's definitely one theory which seems to be quite strong, which is that at a certain point, the universe stops expanding and starts to contract. Now, the universe is made up of 2 trillion galaxies. And at the center of each galaxy, there is a super black hole. And at the center of the universe, there is also a super black hole. And in each case, around the super black hole, there are various galaxies or stars and so forth circling. And at the center of the super black hole, there is also a singularity. It can't really be seen because there's around that there's like a circle which is an event horizon. After that, the speed of light is such that it can't be seen. But nevertheless, they say that eventually everything will contract into the center of the super black hole. And again, this super black hole, this center is called a singularity with zero volume, and infinite mass. Now, what's really interesting is that this completely accords with the presentation in the Kalachakra Tantra. It's a different way of expressing it, but the idea is the same. Because according to the Kalachakra, there is a series of universes, like a cycle of expanding and contracting, expanding and contracting, coming from zero time and space, and according to quantum physics, time and space are co-created as the universe expands. And this again fits with Kalachakra. Kalachakra has a presentation called space particles, which, like, they're just space, but they contain the potential of earth, water, fire, and air, which are the material particles. So, according to His Holiness the Dalai Lama, these space particles are quantized phenomena. In other words, they're quantum particles, they're quanta, they're subatomic particles. So there's many correlations between the Kalachakra and contemporary science. Very interesting, especially quantum physics. Some of these are discussed in a book by the Dalai Lama. In English, it's called The Universe in a Single Atom. I don't know if it's translated into French, but it's a very nice book. The Universe in a Single Atom. All of this is very interesting in relation to Kalachakra, because Kalachakra is quite scientific, actually, in its understanding of the universe and also the individual. You may have noticed there's a similarity between the individual and the universe. We could say that the moment of conception is the singularity of the individual, like the Big Bang. And the moment of death is where everything contracts back into the singularity. The individual, of course, has consciousness. We don't normally say that the universe has consciousness, but the universe is full of beings that have consciousness. So where are those streams of consciousness at the time of the Big Bang? According to the Kalachakra, before the Big Bang, there is a kind of space particle vacuum within which the karmic winds begin to move. And these karmic winds are energies of the individuals who will live in this universe, the beings of the universe, and connected to their karma, the Big Bang produces environments within which they will have the karma to be born and then experience different environmental experiences. So if we bring this to planet Earth, we're also talking about the history of planet Earth, which is also a cycle. Planet Earth began and it will end. And within that time, connected to all the sentient beings, particularly in our case, humans who have such an impact on the environment, we are creating a history. We're creating a cycle or a story of events. Let's bring it back to our own personal life. We can't actually remember the moment of conception, but we can imagine it. And we can imagine that from that pure moment, when the mind was completely clear, everything started to grow inside the womb. And then we came out of the womb. And then we started to experience the environment with our senses. We started to learn a culture, a language, etc. And our mind was conditioned by the society that we were born into. And then various events have happened in our lives. Some positive events, some negative events. We experience some suffering. We experience some joy. And this story of our life led to this moment right now. It's also the case that the past has gone. It doesn't exist anymore. The future hasn't arrived yet. It doesn't exist anymore. All that exists is the present moment. Does the present moment exist independently? No, of course not. It's part of a continuum of moments. It was produced by the previous moments, and in turn it will cause the future moments. Not even the present moment exists by itself. Past, present, and future are just relative to each other. None of them exists by itself. They only exist relatively. If we search, we can't find anything. We can't find the present moment. It doesn't exist from its own side. It only exists in relation to past and future moments. This empty nature of every moment is the same. This stillness is the root or basis of reality. This is the nature of reality. But it's very rare to understand these things. Maybe to understand them intellectually is possible, but to understand them intuitively, we could say spiritually, is quite a journey. But it's a journey to reality, a reality that always has been and always will be present, but it's just obscured. It's obscured because our mind is fixated on making things everywhere, on concretizing things. But we can learn from quantum physics that the observer and the observed are simply relational. There is nothing that exists independently. Not ourselves, not the objects we experience, not others, not even enlightenment exists independently. Everything is relational. Now, we need to talk about the Kalachakra initiation. You might be a bit frustrated. Oh, why isn't he talking about the initiation? That's what I came for. He's just going on about all these strange ideas. Well, let's start to talk about the initiation. So first of all, the purpose of the initiation is to give us an entrance into the practice of Kalachakra. And the purpose of the practice of Kalachakra is to bring us to enlightenment, whose nature has always been present, but obscured to us. So the purpose of the practice, and including the initiation, is to remove the obscurations to enlightenment. Enlightenment is simply pure awareness. It's the pure awareness that already exists at our heart center, but we obscure it because of our ignorance, because of grasping at everything around us, including oneself. We need a method to purify these obscurations. In other words, to remove them, to eliminate them, to live in accordance with reality, to live in accordance with the time, the kala, at the center of the wheel, and to live in accordance with the chakra, the wheel that is always turning. To be in the moment according to reality, instead of according to our karmic appearance or obscuration, which comes from our previous actions. So the initiation is like the doorway, and at the initiation it's like we are given a seed, and we're given that seed by the initiating Lama. You know, we say Lama or Guru. I don't know what we say in European concepts. Spiritual teacher. The spiritual teacher who has the capacity to give the initiation through his or her own personal development is going to impart to us something which we take away, and in a way it becomes part of us. It's like a seed is placed in our heart center, not just the seed which is already there, but a seed for development. We're not allowed to practice the Kalachakra until we take the initiation. So it's like the gateway to the practice. Some people will attend and perhaps not do any specific practice, but nevertheless there's the possibility to grow the seed by positive, virtuous activity. But it's also possible for us to learn the practice, to train in the practice, and from that to really grow the seed in terms of our own spiritual development, which will enrich our life. Dare I say, it would make us a better person, but it will also give us the means to become fully enlightened. And that is the important point. It's important to take this seriously, becoming enlightened, particularly at this time. I say that because the world is in serious crisis. Recently, I've seen it called a meta-crisis. Previous to that, there was this term, the polycrisis. I don't know if you came across these terms. Polycrisis means there's many crises happening simultaneously. There's an ecological crisis, a climate crisis, an economic crisis, a political crisis. We can also talk about a spiritual crisis. Maybe that's the meaning of meta-crisis, something which underlies all the other crises, which is a crisis of human society and culture becoming separate from its ecological source. And because of that, we have a destructive, disharmonious relationship with our Mother Earth. And if we don't heal this, it looks very serious indeed. It already is serious. In a way, it's already too late. But in another way, it's never too late. There's always something to be done. Now, all of this connects with the Kalachakra. In Kalachakra, there's a systemic correlation between the inner world and the outer world. We say the inner cycles of time and the outer cycles of time. The outer cycles of time includes this meta-crisis in our world. But we're affected by that. We also have an inner crisis. A crisis of insecurity, of fear. In many cases, stress or depression. The outer elements, when they're imbalanced, out of balance, we get these extreme weather patterns. We get the destruction of the environment, the breakdown. When the elements are out of balance internally, we get sick. What is it that causes the elements to be out of balance? According to Kalachakra, it's the karmic winds destabilizing. It sounds a bit theoretical, doesn't it? But it's also something we can feel. We can experience this. We can experience it internally, and we can experience it going on around us in the world. And we know that these are very dangerous times. We're on the verge of collapse. It's already happening in some parts of the world. And one of the problems is we feel powerless. Each of us feels, what can I do? I can't do anything about this. Maybe the politicians could do something, but they don't. Maybe the big corporations could do something, but they don't. All they seem to be interested in is extracting more fossil fuels and so forth. All they seem to be interested in is making more money at the expense of life on Earth. What can a small person like me do? We feel powerless. This is a common experience these days. Especially among young people, it can lead to despair, mental health problems, even suicide. This is well known. This is where something like the Kalachakra actually connects to oneself and one's relation with the world. It's quite hard to express this in words. If you attend the initiation, you will get a taste of what I'm talking about, which is that this Kalachakra system, let's call it, is extremely powerful. Some of you are already familiar with this because you are practicing Kalachakra. You've already taken the initiation. I know some of you in this group have already entered into this. And you already know from your experience that this is very powerful. But probably quite a few of you are new to this. So you're listening to me talking and thinking, what's he talking about? Or, should I trust what he's saying? And many questions. That's fine. I don't want you to believe anything just because I say it. But what I'm sharing comes from my study, my practice, my reflections, particularly on Kalachakra. And I have been teaching it quite a lot to different groups and leading retreats and so forth. And I've definitely felt this incredible, powerful experience through the practice. So then the question might be, well, how does this power have any impact on the world? So that is a difficult question to answer, actually. Maybe it might help to refer to the legend or myth of Shambhala, which some of you already heard, but many of you maybe not. It's said that in this world, a barbarian culture develops. The barbarians are addicted to cruelty and violence. They have no compassion. If they had compassion, it's been suppressed in their culture. I think we could say that also the barbarian culture is very materialistic because it negates wisdom and compassion. It's brutal. And the story is that it takes over the world gradually. The culture of wisdom and compassion is pushed into more remote places, maybe in the hearts of individuals, or maybe in remote places in the world. And there's one place which is where the culture is completely based on wisdom and compassion, and that place is called Shambhala. maybe a place called Shambhala or with another name existed in the past, but we don't know of any such place on the planet now. So maybe this is a myth for us, but it's still very interesting, and I think it's quite useful. The story is that the leader of the barbarians, who has taken over almost the whole world, hears about Shambhala and decides, I must conquer Shambhala. It's the kind of last place to where I didn't conquer already. So he goes to the gates of Shambhala to enter with a huge army. And then the king of Shambhala rides out with an even bigger army and defeats the barbarians and brings 1,000 years of Shambhala culture to the whole of the planet. And in the traditional story, this is quite military, actually. Which I find quite difficult. And I think it's symbolic or metaphorical. Because the way I interpret the myth is that the weapons of Shambhala are actually wisdom and compassion. And the weapons of the barbarians are cruelty and violence and materialism. We could say that when the Chinese invaded Tibet, it was a little bit like the barbarians invading Shambhala. There were some parallels. And that when the king of Shambhala rode out of the kingdom of Shambhala, it's a little bit like His Holiness Dalai Lama coming out of Tibet. And instead of an actual war, there is a kind of gradual bringing the culture of wisdom and compassion to the whole world. And we're in a time of a balance of power between the barbarian culture and the culture of wisdom and compassion. This is an interpretation of the myth of Shambhala in the Kalachakra, but I find it quite helpful in order to understand what's going on in the world today. There are so many examples of compassionate action everywhere. Everywhere in the world, there are many individuals and groups doing very positive things. At the same time that those in power, with power over, are doing very destructive things. And things are in the balance. It could go either way, actually. The fact is, we don't know which way it's going to go. What the Kalachakra brings is a methodology for the individual to become very capable of contributing positively to what I like to call a future eco-civilization. I prefer the term eco-civilization to Shambhala. For me, Shambhala is a word from mythology, from the past. But the notion of an eco-civilization to replace the current industrial growth civilization seems to be something very positive. And in this, personally, I feel that the Kalachakra can have a role, especially for those who are drawn to engage with it. And by definition, the 100 people in this event right now are drawn to it. You wouldn't be here otherwise. You're interested. You want to find out. Maybe many of you already decided, I will take the initiation. Maybe some of you are undecided. What I'm trying to do right now is give you a context within it which you might understand the meaning of taking the initiation, and which will inform you when you come there, if you come. The most important preparation for this initiation is to generate a good motivation, the right motivation. The good motivation is the wish to develop your own wisdom and compassion through this particular process. First of all, to take the initiation, and then, hopefully for many of you, to engage in the practice of Kalachakra. But as you may know, it's not obligatory. It's possible to come to the initiation and not engage in the practice. I believe it says this on the website. I seem to remember seeing that. In which case, you can come to the initiation and you will receive what's called an empowerment, or a blessing, we could say, to really enhance your mind. And then, if you wish to engage in the practice, well, the organizers is the Tantra Kalachakra. So by definition, that is also a source of knowledge about how to practice the Kalachakra and study the Kalachakra and so forth. So it's a place from which you can learn in future, both the study and the practice. And there are some books translated into French, but if you understand English, there are more books in English. So, and there are various websites and so forth. So it's something you can learn about. You won't necessarily see all the things I've been talking about, because I've just given you my own understanding, which is, maybe it's a bit personal, but it is based on my study and practice of Kalachakra. So I haven't completely made it up. So if you come to the initiation, come with an open heart and an open mind, seeking to develop compassion and wisdom for oneself, of course, to become a happier person, but also for sharing with the world, with one's family, one's community, one's colleagues, one's society, in whatever way. And we're all different. The way that we would put this into practice will be completely different. Well, not completely, but it will be different in each case. That's something that depends on your circumstances and your particular skills and capacities. I will say a few more things about what will happen at the initiation. So one thing is there will be a lot of people there, and it will be quite confusing when to arrive at such a place with a lot of energy in the foyer of the hall and so forth. There will be a lot of energy, and that can disturb your mind, actually. So as soon as possible, go to your seat and settle your mind. Don't spend your whole time talking or looking around at everybody and all that kind of thing. Settle your mind and bring it into a suitable space to receive the initiation. Everybody receives an initiation according to their capacity. Some people receive a very superficial initiation, and that's usually because the mind is quite closed. Some people receive a very profound initiation because their mind is very open and receptive. So come with a receptive mind. So that requires some trust. And principally, you would need to trust Jhado Rinpoche. So, if possible, do some research. Who is this person? As much as possible, you should know that you can trust this person who's giving the initiation. I've mentioned a few things about him myself at the beginning, but actually, you need to find out for yourself. There will be people that you might be able to meet who already have connection with him, and you can ask them about his qualities. Maybe some of you already have connection with him, so you already have some relationship. But do some research. And then when you arrive there, he will probably be there already, and he will, at a certain point, sitting on a throne, so, you'll kind of look up a little bit. And he will be a monk. He'll smile a lot, I'm sure. Now, during the initiation, you will be asked, invited, we could say required, to see him as Kalachakra. That is quite difficult because he doesn't look like Kalachakra. When you look at a picture of Kalachakra and you look at Jhado Rinpoche, who's a human, it doesn't look like the same person. So for that, you need to understand that the human is the biological outer form, and the Kalachakra is the inner form. If you can understand that we have an inner form, it helps. We all have an inner form, actually. We call it the subtle body, and for most of it, it's not very developed. So it's a bit of a mess, actually. But a practitioner, yogi like Jhado Rinpoche, has worked extensively on the subtle body and has brought about the form of Kalachakra. So that although he appears to us as a human being, a monk and so forth, actually during the initiation it's better if we can connect to him as Kalachakra. The best initiation we can receive is from Kalachakra, not an ordinary human. However, you can't lie to yourself. You will see an ordinary human seated there, and you should acknowledge that. That's fine. He's not going to pretend not to be human. But have a sense of his inner presence. Just feel it in your heart and take the initiation from that. That's the point. Take the initiation from the inner presence of Jhado Rinpoche. The initiation will have a whole series of sub-initiations, we could call it. It's broken down into different sections. There will be 4 main initiations called the vase initiation, which is where we take some liquid from a vase. The secret initiation, where we take some very subtle substances on our tongue. The wisdom initiation, where we experience a blissful union. And finally, the word initiation, which communicates to us what is the nature of enlightenment. Now, before we engage in those 4, there will be some vows which we have to take. We will take refuge with the Lama, which entails the commitment to hold the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha as supreme. If you haven't taken refuge before, you should do some research to understand what that means. Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha, the three jewels. And then we will take the Bodhisattva vows, which is basically a lifelong commitment to work for the benefit of others. To put it very simply, there's much more complexity in it, but we could summarize it as that: a commitment to work for the benefit of others and to work to become enlightened in order to be of maximum benefit to others. Okay? That's the Bodhisattva vows. And then after that, we will take the Tantric vows. And the Tantric vows have many different aspects, but one of the principal ones is to form a bond, a personal bond between oneself and the initiating Lama, Jhado Rinpoche. That bond is a kind of commitment that we make at that time. There are other tantric vows involving various things like our relationship with the others in the initiation. It's like we become one Vajra family with the other initiates at the same time. So there's a bond also with the others in the initiation, but the principal bond is with the Lama. And that is something which we need to try to safeguard after the initiation. So there's the vows and there's some other preliminaries, and then there's the 4 initiations I mentioned. And with each initiation, there'll be various words to repeat, requests, and then there will be various rituals, some of them involving substances or particular objects. We will also be asked to visualize certain things, and that can be quite difficult when we're not used to it, but we do our best. And the main thing is to keep your mind as calm and clear as possible throughout the initiation and continue to be receptive. And hopefully the confidence and trust in the Lama will grow through doing the initiation. So it's 2 days, I think it's 2 afternoons. I believe it's the afternoons. And so you're going to be a few hours each day. And when it finishes, you will have been initiated into the mandala of Kalachakra. So let's just clarify what that means, the mandala of Kalachakra. So the mandala is like the universe of Kalachakra. And unlike the universe that we experience, which has many problems, the universe of Kalachakra is completely pure. And the interesting thing is that the universe of Kalachakra and the universe we experience are the same thing. They're just experienced from different perspectives. The universe that we experience is through what we call samsara, through our karma, through our ignorance, which is the basis of suffering, actually. The universe of Kalachakra, or the mandala, we usually call it, is completely pure of all that. It's blissful. It's also transformative. So when we enter the mandala, which is what happens during the initiation, there's something transformational that happens to us, to our mind. There's something that will shift in our mind if we're open to it. And that can open the door to the practice and also the states of mind which the practice brings about. The states of mind of wisdom and compassion. A sort of transformational capacity which we also bring to others in our life. So it's not just a private experience. In a way, we're there as a representative of our personal community, which would include, our family, our friends, our colleagues at work. It's different for each person, obviously. And when we return to our community, we take something with us. And this is something that we can grow through the practice, or we can just allow it to permeate into our daily life. So I hope that this has given you some sense of what this is all about. I'm going to open it up now for you to share something. You can, if you want to share some thoughts of your own, you're welcome. If you'd like to ask a question, you're also welcome. If there's something I said that wasn't clear that you'd like to ask about, that's fine. Or maybe there's something I forgot to mention that you'd like to ask about, because there's so much to say, I've probably forgotten a lot of important things. So there's a raise hand button at the bottom of your screen. You could use that. Once you raise your hand, yes, Krasimira's already gone there. Then I will invite you to unmute and ask your question, and Nadia will translate it into English for me, so then I'll know what you're asking. Okay, so Krasimira, you'd like to unmute?
Yes, hello. You say that there is a special relationship, a bond with the Lama who is giving the initiation. I don't understand very well how it relates to the special relation I have with my root teacher, my root Lama, which is supposed to be the special one. And I even thought that he is supposed to give to me all initiations.
Okay, that's a really good question, and hopefully other people will benefit from what I have to say. So thank you for asking. So many of us, including myself, have more than one guru. And of course, as you mentioned, there's a root Lama or root guru who's perhaps our main guru. But some people say they have more than one root guru even. So then the question is how to understand this. And as you probably know already, ideally we see our guru as enlightened. That gives a lot of benefit to our mind. So enlightenment is based on the enlightened mind, which we call Dharmakaya. So when we have more than one guru, we can see them as manifestations of the same Dharmakaya. And they manifest in different forms for different purposes. So for instance, maybe your root guru gave you some teachings or initiations, other initiations, but didn't give you Kalachakra, for example. And now there's a possibility to receive Kalachakra from another Lama, Jhado Rinpoche. And what's good, if in your mind, if possible, you can see Jhado Rinpoche and your root guru as actually the same, but taking different forms for different purposes. And if you work with this principle, you can have several gurus and you don't feel a big conflict, even if they say things in a very different way. And, they sometimes even say things which contradict each other. That's quite interesting. But the question is, how does this particular teaching relate to me? And sometimes even two gurus giving you different teachings can relate to different parts of you. And this is quite beneficial. It actually enriches you. So it's not the case that everybody just has to have one guru. It might be good to be grounded in a main guru, like what we call a root guru, because it gives us a particular person with whom we have a very strong bond. But we can create a bond with different gurus. Is that enough of an answer, Krasimira?
Yes, thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Okay, Capucine.
Yes, hello. I have a very, very practical question because I'm not taking the initiation. I'm benevolent and I need to know now. You mentioned different steps, taking refuge, bodhisattva vows, tantric vows. Is
Yes.
that right? And you mentioned also rituals with objects.
Yeah.
Will the Lama be standing, doing things, moving around or something like that?
This kind of thing, yeah.
Okay.
So the question is, if you're just taking it as a blessing, a benevolence, then you don't have to take all the vows. But you can do if you want. But probably if you're going to take the tantric vows, then it's best to take the full initiation. Sometimes it happens that people go there with the intention not to take the initiation, and then something happens in their mind and they change their mind. That's also okay. You don't have to be certain before you go. But yeah, when it comes to repeating the words that the Lama gives during the initiation, if you're just receiving a blessing, then it's probably best not to say the words, I would say. I think once you start to say the words, then you really need to enter into the initiation itself. Okay. Thank you. Would anybody else like to? Yeah, Geraldine. You're muted. You're still muted. Yeah.
I would like to know in which kind of practice we are engaging in if we take the initiation, because I don't know what sort of engagement it is. I don't know if I am able to go in or not, in fact.
Okay.
And I don't know also if I find it too hard. What can I do? What do you think?
Okay. So the first thing to say is that Kalachakra is part of Mahayana. Okay. So that means that the motivation is to become enlightened in order to benefit all sentient beings.
Okay.
And so if you feel, yeah, I really would like to try to do that. Of course, we're not all perfect. We make mistakes. But nevertheless, I want to try to do that in my life. Then definitely you can take the first steps like the refuge and the tantric vows. Bodhisattva vows. Bodhisattva vows is that commitment to become enlightened for the sake of all beings and so forth. Now, Tantra is a very powerful method within the Mahayana. It's a method which really works with the subtle energies and so forth. Actually, if we take it gently, it's not too difficult. There is a practice, yeah. For example, each day there's a practice called the 6-session Guru Yoga. And this is to recite a particular text, which we can learn, and it's actually a meditation. There is a short version of that, which can take about 10 minutes in the morning and 10 minutes in the evening. It's good if you can do that practice. Then there's the possibility to do particular Kalachakra practices, which are really more effective, but they take a bit longer. So my advice is to take it gently and to gradually grow into the practice rather than, rushing too much. We often don't know what our capacity is until we try. And we tend to try when we're inspired. And I think that you need to spend the next couple of weeks before the initiation really feeling, what do I really want to do with my life? What's my priority? Would I like to get involved in this kind of thing? Because it's a big step, it's true. It's a kind of transformation of one's life to some extent. So am I ready to do that? But as was said at the beginning, this is a very rare opportunity. So there is some benefit in taking the initiation, even if you don't feel completely ready. And then maybe gradually, over time, you'll get more into it. That happens with many people. Mm-hmm. Not everybody goes, whoom, straight in. Some people gradually get involved. Even some people, they don't do much for a while, and then at a certain point later in life, they really get involved. So it's possibly an opportunity to think about, but it's very much your decision. It's your mind, your life. I suggest you do some more research and trust your heart. What do I feel is right for me? I think that's the best advice I can give.
Thank you very much.
Good luck.
Thank you.
Okay. Anybody else want to share something or ask something? Yeah, Adriana.
Hi, hello. I would like to know which books do you recommend to know more about it, maybe before and after the initiation? I would like to know. Thank you.
Okay, so there is one book which has been translated into French, I'm assuming you're French, by Alexander Berzin. In English, it's called Taking the Kalachakra Initiation. If you can get hold of that book, it's quite useful as preparation for the initiation. I think the best thing in terms of French language would be to inquire at the Centre Kalachakra what their recommendations are. If I recommend some English books, then I think I just want to recommend the one by Alexander Berzin anyway, because it gives you a good background to the whole of Kalachakra actually. So I think it's quite useful. I hope that will help you, Adriana.
Thank you.
Okay. Justine? You're muted. You need to unmute. Okay.
Bonjour, oui.
Bonjour.
Merci du fond du cœur pour cet enseignement et toutes vos précisions, c'est vraiment précieux. J'ai encore une question sur ce lien avec la paix dans le monde. Vous parlez d'éco-civilisation, j'adore. J'ai beaucoup de mal à imaginer encore ce monde dans lequel on vit atteindre cette éco-civilisation dont vous parlez. Et je ne peux pas m'empêcher du coup de repenser à ce que vous disiez sur ces vents de karma qui constitueraient nos univers successifs. Est-ce que finalement cette pratique, elle n'est pas aussi finalement peut-être destinée à aller plus loin que ce monde-là et peut-être effectivement planter une graine pour pour d'autres mondes, vente karma, et peut-être des karmas communs aussi, dans lesquels, comme vous disiez, on pourrait imaginer que par le lien qui nous unit aujourd'hui et dans le futur, on pourrait aussi se retrouver. En tout cas, j'aime bien penser ça par rapport à ce que vous disiez.
That's wonderful. And I agree with everything you said. In fact, what you said is exactly the way I see it. And whatever happens in future on this planet, whether it's good or bad, if we create the causes now, definitely there will be positive results in future. We can't really see the future, but we can do our best to contribute something positive. And I feel certain that this is a very good method for doing that. And I think you understood that from what you said. And I'm really, really pleased to hear that. Thank you. Okay, Virginie, you need to unmute. Okay.
Bonjour.
Bonjour.
Moi, je me demandais, les vœux tantriques, ça me fait un peu peur. Je me dis que je vais les prendre et après, je vais peut-être découvrir. Là, mon cœur me dit, vas-y, prends l'initiation. Mais après, je vais peut-être découvrir que je ne suis pas capable de les tenir. De même, j'ai peur aussi de ne pas être capable de comprendre la pratique, la méthode, et de créer encore plus de karma négatif que si je ne l'avais pas fait.
Well, whether you make good karma or bad karma depends entirely on your intention. In other words, if your intention is virtuous, you'll definitely create good karma, even if you make mistakes. So the Tibetans have a saying, you stand up where you fall down. Okay? So in other words, in order to stand up, we need to fall down. And standing up is the point. So we need to accept our inadequacies and almost embrace them as part of the path. Regarding the vows, I think it's reasonable to say that there's an assumption that we will make some mistakes. That's why they're there. They're there to try and sort of remind us to go in a good direction, but sometimes we'll fall off the path. And then with the vows, we'll bring ourselves back. And there are some practices, you might have heard of the Vajrasattva practice, for example, for purifying any mistakes we make like that. But it's actually quite hard to really destroy the vows. It's very hard, mostly, because there have to be all kinds of conditions. For instance, we don't regret what we did, which is quite unusual. You would have to be a very negative person, that if you did something wrong, that you wouldn't regret it. So if you regret a mistake, then you don't break the vow, mostly. So there's various points like that. And actually, you can study all this in Alexander Berzin's book. It's one of the really positive, useful sections of his book, is the explanation of all the vows, their meaning, and the conditions for keeping them, and so forth. The truth is that when we start, most of us don't know what we're doing. We're just like babies, trying to make sense of the world. And that's okay. That's expected. It's normal. So I think it's okay. I think you'll be okay. If you want to do it, you will be fine. And if the intention is good, then the result will be good. Okay, thank you. And now Annie.
Bonjour, est-ce que vous m'entendez? Bonjour. Je voudrais avoir un peu plus de précision. Excusez-moi, je n'ai pas de caméra. Par exemple, la Mazopa Rinpoche, quand il donne par exemple l'initiation de Varja Yogini, il dit « Vous ne prenez pas l'initiation si vous ne pouvez pas faire la pratique de Varja Yogini tous les jours. » Pour Kalachakra, l'engagement à faire la pratique, qu'est-ce que c'est concrètement? Pratiquer tous les jours? Parce que j'ai eu aussi d'autres initiations, par exemple Varja Sattva, je ne le pratique pas tous les jours, mais ça m'arrive de faire Varja Sattva parce que j'ai eu l'initiation, vous voyez? Et l'engagement, justement, à quoi on s'engage dans la vie quotidienne en fonction de ses capacités. Voilà.
Okay. Okay. So from what I understood, you already took the Vajrayogini initiation from Lama Zopa Rinpoche. If that is the...
non, justement, je ne suis pas capable de faire Varja Yogini tous les jours et donc je ne l'ai pas fait. Voilà.
Okay.
C'était
I think
demandé
with
par
Kalachakra, it's a little bit more relaxed. I don't know specifically what Jhado Rinpoche has said about this initiation, but for example, when His Holiness Dalai Lama gives the Kalachakra, thousands and thousands of people come who don't practice, to be honest. They still get benefit. They still receive some seed of the empowerment. I think I read that this initiation by Jhado Rinpoche is going to be like that also, that you can come and just take it as a blessing. I believe that's the case. Yeah, Capuchin is nodding, so that's true. Thank you. Now, of course, it's best if you can practice. There's no doubt about that. And it's good if you can practice every day. It's really much more beneficial because then you are actually beginning to engage with it. But as I said earlier, there are some people who don't practice straight away, or maybe they very gradually enter the practice, or even the practice just lays as a potential for even years, and then they start to practice. I have a feeling that Jhado Rinpoche is okay about that, actually. But it's best if you go to think, I would like to try to do the practice. You know, it's not really good to go and say, oh, well, I'll just go and see what it's like and hang out and I won't do the practice, unless you're just going to take it as a blessing, which is a bit different. If you take the initiation, it's best if you think, I'm going to try to do the practice. And then if you have real difficulties with it, well, there actually are some very simple versions which you can do. I can tell you that. And you have to be gentle with yourself. You really have to be kind to yourself. And find your capacity. But definitely the practice is worthwhile. It's definitely the best thing if you can do that. I can't say much more. You have to take responsibility for what you do. I can't decide for you. Okay, we're going to go to Kian. Your name is Kalachakra, Kian. Yeah. You want to unmute? You're muted. We can't hear you.
Tian.
You need to unmute.
Sorry, yeah. I'm sorry. I forgot it.
Fine.
Okay.
No problems.
Ok. Ma question, c'est que si on a déjà reçu une initiation de Kalachakra avant, comme une initiation, pas comme une bénédiction, mais sans trop d'engagement de pratique de sadhana, sans trop d'engagement de sadhana, mais on fait déjà les 6 sessions. Et 6 sessions plutôt version générale, pas la version Kalachakra. Mais on a brisé les vœux.
Yeah.
Et pour restaurer les vœux, donc il vaut mieux cette fois-ci rentrer dans le mandala et recevoir initiation. C'est comme ça qu'on restaure le vœu. Ben, c'est bien ça, c'est ça. Parce que si j'ai bien compris, si on reçoit comme une bénédiction, on ne peut pas restaurer le vœu qu'on a brisé avant. Ça, c'est mon premier. Est-ce que c'est bien ça? Deuxième chose, c'est que si on a dans l'esprit que on va recevoir initiation de Kalachakra comme initiation dans le but de restaurer le vœu et renforcer le lien avec les déités, mais on n'a pas encore complètement décidé, c'est notre pratique pour le futur. Donc, est-ce qu'on peut recevoir initiation? Mais on continue de faire 6 sessions bon, comme avant, bien sûr. C'est juste, si on n'est pas tellement sûr de faire pratique de Kalachakra elle-même, est-ce qu'on peut recevoir initiation, mais dans le but de restaurer le vœu et puis renforcer le lien. Donc,
Okay, so you already have the commitment to do the 6 session Guru Yoga, and so you should try to do it.
yeah, I do it.
Yeah.
Oui, je
Okay.
le fais, mais je le fais de la façon plutôt la version générale, pas la version.
Yeah, that's fine. The general version is good enough for
Okay.
Kalachakra.
Okay.
That's fine.
Okay.
No problem. You don't have to do any extra practice. By doing the general
Okay.
6 session Guru Yoga, you keep your commitment.
Ouais. Ok. Après, je récite le mantra, mais je ne fais pas le sadhana de Kalachakra. Donc,
Okay. That's fine. Yeah,
Okay.
that's fine. And I suggest you take the initiation again.
Est-ce que Jhado Rinpoche... Ok, donc dans ce cas-là, je reprends l'initiation, parce que je ne suis pas sûre si Jhado Rinpoche va donner des engagements comme pratique spécifique à la Kalachakra.
No, he won't. He'll be happy with just the general 6 session Guru Yoga. That will be fine. You can take the full initiation, and that will retake the vows, and it will really strengthen your practice. And then if you want to do more Kalachakra in future, that's also fine. But what you're doing already is enough.
Okay.
Okay?
Okay, thank you. Merci.
Cool. Okay. Now, Martine. You need to unmute, Martine. Okay.
Oui, bonsoir. Alors, j'entends qu'on parle beaucoup de faire la pratique ou ne pas faire la pratique. Et moi, je reste avec cette question, mais qu'est-ce que c'est la pratique exactement? Ça veut dire quoi, en fait, faire la pratique ou ne pas faire la pratique? C'est quoi? Voilà, ma question.
Okay, so the practice is a meditation. And if possible, it's good to do it every day. And there is a sadhana, which is basically a text which describes the meditation. So when you begin, the text is mainly just words. But as you become more familiar, it comes deeper and becomes a meditation. I can't tell you what the text is right now because you only find out after the initiation. But this is something which you can gradually become familiar with. The first time I took the initiation, the next day I started to read the text of the sadhana. I didn't understand it, but I kind of liked it. It sort of inspired me somehow. I didn't know why, but it felt nice. And that was the beginning of my Kalachakra practice. And since that day, I did some Kalachakra practice every day of my life. That's 42 years ago, every day. And it grows and grows and grows. I also did many retreats. So what I'm trying to say is it's a gradual process. Probably at the initiation, I'm not sure, maybe they'll give you a text. Sometimes they do, or they'll recommend a text. And then you can get hold of that. And you can slowly get into it. I think that's the best advice. Okay? Okay, thank you. All right. Maybe that's it, or does anybody else want to share anything?
Andy, there's a question in the chat. Somebody is asking what makes Kalachakra so unique as compared to other meditational deities?
Well, I think I already explained it.
Yeah, so that's why. Okay.
What I tried to say about time, the meaning of Kalachakra, that is different. There are many sort of overlaps, but Kalachakra is mainly about the wheel or cycles of time.
Okay.
That's unique. Okay. Anything else? We could do a short meditation to finish. We just got another. Oh, Patricia. Yeah, go ahead, Patricia. You need to unmute. You're muted. Yeah. Okay.
Oui, bonsoir.
Bonsoir.
J'aurais une question parce que, bon, moi j'ai déménagé les Pays-Bas, donc j'allais dans un centre tibétain avec un lama de la lignée Khenpo Jime Phuntsok Rinpoche. Et donc, nous avons plusieurs fois été en Inde, mais je n'ai jamais suivi donc l'initiation de Kalachakra. Et nous avons fait aussi une retraite à Katmandou avec lama Zopa Rinpoche. Et là, donc, je me suis inscrite, mais j'habite le sud de la France et je ne suis reliée à aucun centre. Donc, est-ce que cette pratique, on peut la faire chez soi? Ou faut-il vraiment être inscrit quelque part?
Okay. So definitely you can do it in your home. But also there are other Kalachakra practitioners in the south of France. And so the question is how to connect with them. So maybe you could ask the Centre Kalachakra if they can connect you with any Kalachakra practitioners who live nearby you, if you want. But otherwise, if you're happy to practice on your own, that's fine. It's not necessary to be a member of a center. It's up to you. But there is some benefit of connecting with a community of practice, definitely, because it gives you more strength, I think. Okay?
Ok, merci.
Okay.
Je ferai sûrement ça, merci.
Okay, so we're nearly at the end, and I think it would be good if we just bring our mind into our heart space again. And maybe we can bring our two hands together at our heart center. And maybe we can bring there anything positive that came from this evening, from this session. Just a feeling of positive energy, maybe. And we can dedicate this energy for a good result. Maybe we can dedicate it to be able to receive the initiation, if that's what our wish is. without obstacles, and to receive the best possible initiation. And whether our intention is to take the initiation or not, we should dedicate for our own spiritual development, to become happy, contented, free from suffering, and to develop compassion and wisdom in our heart, and eventually to become enlightened, to be of most benefit to all beings. And we should feel the confidence in our heart center that we have not only the basis, but also the capacity to become enlightened. And also we can dedicate for this world of so much pain and suffering, but which has potential for a harmonious, peaceful, ecological civilization. It has that potential because healthy humans are very able to live like that. So we dedicate for a transformation of culture and consciousness, and bringing about the necessary changes in social structures, economy, and so forth for the good of the world. And for this Kalachakra tradition to be sustained through these difficult times of the coming years and decades into the future, to be of great benefit to humans in future also. And finally, we're going to dedicate for the Tantra Kalachakra, which is very kindly creating this great opportunity of this initiation with Jhado Rinpoche. May this center flourish. And for the long life of the gurus, such as Jhado Rinpoche, Lama Zopa Rinpoche, and His Holiness Dalai Lama, as well as our own personal gurus, not mentioned. May they live long, may they continue to teach, and may many, many, many beings benefit from their teachings. Ok, merci beaucoup.
Merci.
Bonsoir.
Merci beaucoup.
Merci.